Before tanks, before drones, and even before gunpowder, terror on the battlefield could come on four legs. Amidst shouts, spears and swords, a swift shadow crossed the warfields of Rome, muscular, agile, obedient, yet fierce. It was not a man, nor a horse. It was the Canis Pugnax, the Roman war dog, bred by the Romans to protect, hunt, fight and kill. The Canis Pugnax was not a camp pet. It was a living weapon. Today, few people know its name. It was forgotten by history books, but never by the legionaries who trusted their lives to it. To understand how this lethal creature came to be, we need to go back in time, to the mountains of Greece and the monster breeders of the ancient world. The name Canis Pugnax, in Latin, literally means combat dog. But the animal behind that name did not appear by chance. It was shaped through the brutal selection of wars, hunts and sieges over centuries. Its origins trace back to the Greek Molossers, an ancient breed of massive dogs used to protect herds and property in the mountainous regions of Epirus, land that today corresponds to Albania and northwestern Greece. These Molossian hounds were enormous and powerful, bred by shepherds who lived in constant danger from wolves, bears and thieves. Their strength, loyalty and courage made them legendary across the ancient world, and their reputation spread far beyond Greece. Philosophers like Aristotle and poets like Virgil spoke of these dogs as true beasts, domesticated, loyal to their masters, but capable of tearing a lion's throat if needed. The Romans, always attentive to the practical qualities of other peoples, saw a diamond in the rough in the Molossers. They began importing them in large numbers, crossing them with local Italian breeds and barbarian war dogs captured from northern tribes. These new crosses were faster, more aggressive, and less predictable, yet still loyal enough to follow human command. The goal was to create the perfect combat dog, large, yet agile, strong and obedient, an animal capable of both disciplined defense and lethal offense. Thus emerged the Canis Pugnax, a dog about 60 centimeters tall, weighing between 40 and 50 kilograms. Its dark fur made it less visible during night raids or ambushes, while its deep guttural bark could strike fear into enemies long before contact. Its body was muscular and compact, built for endurance rather than speed, with powerful jaws and thick skin that could withstand bites or weapon strikes. It was intelligent enough to understand complex commands but instinctive enough to react to danger on its own. A naturally territorial and protective animal, the Canis Pugnax was not just a companion, it was a sentry, a guardian, and when unleashed, a predator trained for war. By the 2nd century BC, Rome's public spectacles evolved from simple gladiator duels to full-blown operas of violence. And dogs, especially the Canis Pugnax, became part of this macabre show, trained to attack with precision, ignore pain, and react to the scent of blood. These dogs were not presented as companions but as execution beasts. They entered the arena to chase condemned criminals, face unarmed prisoners, or even fight against exotic beasts brought from distant lands, lions, bears, and giant wild boars. Their handlers trained them through hunger, exposure to blood, and relentless repetition. A single command could send a pack charging into the sand, their growls echoing through the amphitheater as the crowd roared for blood. Before the fights, they were kept fasting for days to ensure even more aggressive behavior, and when the chains were released, the crowd erupted. The brutality wasn't an accident, it was the climax of the spectacle. These animals represented Rome's domination over nature itself, its ability to weaponize even the beasts. Some dogs became so famous, they were given names and popular ovations, like true four-legged gladiators, celebrated for their ferocity and resilience. In the arena, the Canis Pugnax was treated as a living weapon, but its true calling was still to be revealed. And soon Rome would discover that this animal could be much more than a circus monster, it could be a soldier. With the expansion of the empire, Rome began waging wars in every corner of the known world and facing enemies with surprising tactics. Among them, one caught particular attention: war dogs used by the Celts, Scythians, Germans and Britons. These dogs attacked with blind ferocity. They leaped over shields, tore at the legs of legionaries, and protected the bodies of their masters with claws and teeth. Some were armored with spiked collars or light chainmail, and they fought until their last breath. The Romans, always learning from their enemies, realized that dogs could be used not only as guardians but as strategic tools of war, living extensions of the legion's discipline and power. Rome understood the message and decided to create its own monsters. The answer was the refinement of the Canis Pugnax, now crossbred with barbarian breeds to increase its aggression and speed. But the true Roman difference was not only physical, it was doctrinal. Unlike tribal dogs that attacked anything that moved, the Roman Canis Pugnax was trained to act like a legionary, attack only on command, recognize allies, hold position even under stress, and die alongside its master if necessary. They were conditioned to ignore pain, resist loud noises, and remain focused amidst chaos, drum beats, and the clash of steel. And that's how the Canis Pugnax left the arena and entered formation, marching alongside armed men, not as an animal, but as part of the deadliest military machine of the ancient world. Like any recruit of the legion, the dog underwent a rigorous training regimen designed to transform its raw instinct into military discipline. First, it had to identify the scent of its comrades, distinguish allies from enemies, and respond only to specific commands, ignoring provocations and the sounds of battle. The goal was to create a dog that would not retreat, get distracted, or hesitate in the chaos of battle. The Canis Pugnax was bred to mirror the discipline of a Roman soldier, resilient, fearless, and unwavering in duty. They marched alongside the legionaries, keeping pace over long distances, often covering up to 35 kilometers a day through heat, rain, and mud. Each dog carried a small leather pack strapped to its back, holding essential items such as food rations, short dispatches, or lightweight supplies needed during the campaign. Their endurance and discipline made them invaluable on long marches where every pair of legs mattered. When the day's march ended, they rested within the camps, lying beside their masters' tents, sharing the same rations and enduring the same hardships. During the night, when exhaustion silenced the camp, the Canis Pugnax remained alert, standing guard and reacting instantly to the faintest sound or scent. Long before human sentinels could notice movement in the dark, these dogs sensed intruders and raised the alarm, their deep barks echoing across the ramparts. In the castra, the fortified camps of Rome, the Canis Pugnax performed several critical roles. They patrolled the perimeter walls, protected food stores and weapon depots, and guarded the prisoners of war captured during campaigns. In regions of constant conflict, such as Germania and Dacia, where ambushes and night raids were frequent, the presence of these dogs drastically reduced surprise attacks. They could detect hidden enemies, track deserters, and protect the vulnerable parts of the encampment better than any mechanical device or watchtower. More than mere animals, they were part of the legion's living system of defense. The bond between soldier and dog was forged in the field, through shared danger and mutual dependence. The Canis Pugnax did not serve only out of instinct. It fought out of loyalty, shaped by the same rigorous discipline that trained the men of the legions. Many Roman soldiers regarded their dogs not as beasts but as comrades, companions who shared their burdens and their fate. Although official Roman chronicles rarely give much attention to dogs on the battlefield, the fragments that survive between the lines tell another story. At the Battle of Vercelli in 101 BC, when the Cimbri tribes clashed with Rome, records mention that the enemy used war dogs to protect their fortified camps. These beasts fought with astonishing determination, defending their fallen masters even after the battle had turned hopeless. They leapt upon Roman shields, bit at spears, and held their ground until they were slain. The Romans who survived that day never forgot the image of those dogs dying beside their dead masters, surrounded by blood and steel. It was a sight that etched itself into memory, a reminder of loyalty that even death could not break. During Julius Caesar's campaigns in Gaul and Britannia, accounts once again noted the presence of guardian and attack dogs among the Celtic and Briton tribes. The Romans, ever pragmatic, understood the value of such creatures and immediately began adapting the idea. They refined the breeding, improved the training, and fully integrated the Canis Pugnax into their military structure. Soon, detachments of Roman soldiers were accompanied by these dogs in dangerous frontier regions such as Germania, Thrace and Dacia, where forests were thick, terrain was unpredictable, and ambushes were frequent. The dogs were used to scout enemy positions, warn of danger, and pursue retreating foes through terrain where cavalry could not easily operate. Visual evidence supports their presence in military life. Reliefs and sculptures, like those carved on the column of Marcus Aurelius, depict dogs walking alongside legionaries. Although the exact nature of their duties, whether for tracking, guarding, or attacking, is not explicitly stated, the artistic details suggest that these depictions were based on real practice rather than mere symbolism. In the ancient world, nothing in Roman art was placed by accident. The Canis Pugnax stood as a practical element of military life, a silent but powerful ally in both order and chaos. These dogs were not used as indiscriminate killers or weapons of terror. They were tactical tools employed precisely where human senses failed, at night, in dense forests, or amid the confusion of battle. Despite their strength, courage, and contribution to Rome's military success, the Canis Pugnax never achieved the recognition given to war horses, generals, or siege engines. Few official texts describe them in detail, and no dedicated military treatise records their methods of training or command. Yet their silence in written history contrasts with the respect they earned in daily life. Among the legionaries, these dogs were beloved companions, treated with care and gratitude. Soldiers often shared food with them, built small shelters for them during storms, and tended to their wounds after combat. In some cases, the loyalty between man and dog became legendary. Inscriptions found on tombstones from different regions of the empire commemorate war dogs buried with honors, described as guardians, friends, and protectors. For many soldiers, a Canis Pugnax was more trustworthy than a fellow man or slave, bound by a devotion that neither bribes nor fear could replicate. They were fed better rations than other animals in the camp and, when injured, received makeshift medical attention from the same medics who treated soldiers. In exceptional cases, particularly loyal or battle-proven dogs were granted ceremonial burials. Gravestones with Latin inscriptions praising their courage have been found, suggesting that these animals held a revered place in the hearts of the men they served. It was not uncommon for a retired veteran to return home accompanied by his old Canis Pugnax, the two inseparable after years of war and hardship. Together they represented the unspoken brotherhood of the Roman army, one born not only of blood, but of shared endurance and loyalty. As centuries passed and Rome changed, so too did the nature of warfare. The original Canis Pugnax gradually disappeared, its lineage diluted by interbreeding and the decline of large-scale ground campaigns that had once required such animals. But its legacy survived in bloodlines that gave rise to modern breeds such as the Neapolitan Mastiff and the Cane Corso. These dogs still bear the physical traits and temperaments of their ancient ancestor, protective, powerful, and disciplined. Their instincts, loyalty, and courage echo the spirit of the Roman war dog that once stood guard beside the legions of Caesar. So now that you know the story of this extraordinary creature, Tell me, doesn't the Canis Pugnax deserve a place of honor alongside the heroes of Rome? If you liked this video, leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and share it with anyone who loves the ancient world as much as you do. And as always, may Mars guide you in battle. And if you want to discover the 10 most famous gladiators of Rome, click on the thumbnail on screen. See you in the next story.